Welcome, everybody, to our first podcast. I am Sean, as you guys already know. Unfortunately, it's going to be myself for quite a while. My other Toga brother had to step away for a while. He has some other things going on that he can't really be around for the time being. So that's why you guys have seen a lot of me recently. And I'm trying to give you guys some good content. But anyway, listen, so I would like to start doing some podcasting with you guys. Okay. With that being said, let's go and jump into it. Um, we started this union back in 2018 when I joined Swissport Express with United Airlines. My career actually started back in 2016. I started working for the Washington International Dulles Airport for a contractor known as Swissport International. Um, Swissport International actually is a contractor and contracted work with them through other basic carriers of the airline industry. No, I say that because we didn't actually work the same airline day in and day out. There were about 9 teams, and each team had about 4 or 5 um, team members per team, and we were given assignments, and usually each team had a batch of flights. I say batch, it's usually about 3 or 4 on any given day. Anyway, so we go and follow through with those flights, those routines. We'll call them schedules, if you will. Okay. So we got these flight schedules. And having said that, we actually did a couple inbounds, a couple outbounds. We did a couple quick turns. Now, for those of you guys who aren't aware, a quick turn is anything within a 20-minute span of time. Um, and it really kind of tested our knowledge. And then we had a couple of long arrivals and long departures. And I say long arrivals and long departures because that is outside of that 20-minute turn or maybe 60-minute turn. Okay. You guys have to understand that for your narrow bodies, you have bags stored in there manually. We put them in there ourselves when we open up the cargo doors. That's what you're hearing underneath is you're hearing us opening the doors. You're hearing us take the machines. You're hearing us grab your bag inside. We are physically going into the pit. We call it a pit. We're physically going into the cargo hold or pit, as it's commonly called, like I just said. And we will actually tell you um, we're pulling your bags from that place. Now, in a quick turn, that means by the time the plane lands on the ground, it comes into the gate. We are actually parking the plane with wands. I don't have them with me, but you guys get the gist. Um, Actually, hold on real quick because I will actually go get something for you. So give me a couple of seconds, guys. I'll be right back. Just kidding. I completely forgot that the 2 sets of wands that I kept back at home in the likely event that, I had to go and use them in other, jobs elsewhere, I actually left them in my locker. So, anyway, um, for the lack of better sense, guys, they're just lighted sticks, okay? And we actually park the planes, okay? And then for during the daytime, they're not lighted, okay? But that's neither here nor there. So, you guys understand that. So by the time we park them and we put those rubber chocks and the wheel, okay, we call that basically parked, right? It's parked. It's not going anywhere. It's like you putting your car in park, right? It's not going anywhere. So by the time it parks, we have to open the pit, we have to unload the bag, and then the offload team is literally in the way of the upload team because as the offload team is offloading, the upload team is actually starting to prepare the equipment, the bags, the tractors, all that good stuff, your carry-ons. They're literally neck and neck right in the same area, trying to put bags right on there as soon as the last bag is offloaded. Matter of fact, the team that's inside the pit offloading is typically the same person that's gonna turn around and load it right back up, okay? That's why you'll notice that when passengers are walking off the plane, you guys are already standing there at the gate ready to board. Okay, we call that a quick turn. It's just a short amount of time. It can be done. It's very difficult at times, but it can be done. Okay. So we did a couple of quick turns while I was working in 2016, and that was actually one of my very first experiences working for the airline. So, a little bit of a backstory, a little bit of a backtrack here. Okay, in 2016, I got hired in October of 2016. It was like the first or second week, and I think it was October 17th, if I remember this correctly. I'm not that good with dates, so apologize if I made a mistake here. But yeah, so it was about October of 2016. That part I am sure it was October and it was, 2016, but the actual day I'm not too familiar with. Okay. But anyway, so and actually my anniversary is coming up because it is the 14th of October today. Anyway, so it turns out I had my very first team lead, okay? And I went from working in the baggage area up to the ramp side area where the plane parks and it, pushes back from the gate. And we'll go into some lingo in my next episode of the podcast, guys, and I will talk some brief terms that you guys may or may not know of. Okay. So, but just bear with me. This is going to be a basic intro and, where we are and how we got to where we are today. Okay. Um, so it was, my very first team lead, and there were about 3 or 4 other guys, I remember, and there was a team lead that had been there for a while, and so I got introduced, and they introduced me to them and that whole 9 yards, and we each had equipment the same day, and, my very first task was to, make sure that the wing did not collide with other, basically, barriers and other objects and stuff of that sort, you know? Basically, we're called wing walkers. We stand at the edge of the wing, and as you guys can see on the actual windows, you guys see the gentleman or female, um, walking alongside holding that stick, la di da di da di da. Okay. They're called wing walkers. They're basically just to keep an eye to make sure that the wing does not strike anything as the person parking the plane and waving them in, like trying to guide him, okay, or her, because it's, male and female industry. Um, Make sure that doesn't make contact, okay? Now they're there to prevent it from happening. It's not there to say, "Oh, it got struck or it got hit," okay? So we're there to be basically a second pair of eyes. Okay. So my very first task was to wing walk my very first arrival. And this was an actual not quick turn, but it was a shortened quick turn. My very first airline was KLM, the Dutch airline. Okay. It was flight 652 into Dulles from Amsterdam, and it was 651 going out to Amsterdam from Dulles. Typically, I don't know if you guys know this, but the international arrival, your flight numbers, if it's an arrival into the States, it is a number higher than your departure from the States out to the international destinations. Okay. So anyway, just so you guys know that, and it's a little bit of a tidbit if you guys are curious and want to know that. All right. And then I may or may not explain that later on how flight numbers are all, done and organized and created. Because there's a method to everything, guys. I don't know if you guys have caught on to that or if you figured it out, but there's a method to everything. Okay. So as that goes on, I noticed, a trend here and there. So okay, back to the gates. I started doing the offload to KLM. So we arrived the aircraft, we parked it, we chalked it, we offloaded the cans, we offloaded the cargo, put the cargo on dollies, and took the dollies away. We put the bags on from the cans over to the claim area and the other arrival area. Okay. And then we dumped them, and then they went up to the customers and they picked them up and yada, yada, yada. Okay. Right after that flight, and it was we call a quick turn, so I not only offloaded it, but I went right back around and started loading the flight instead of taking a small break and getting prepared for my next arrival. Okay, so I went into the inbounds and turned around into the outbounds, and then we pushed it out, all 5 of us, okay? I think it was actually 6 of us. Um, in the very beginning, we kinda, like, separated at the end, and then it got down to, like, 4 of us on the team. It was a little bit challenging, but we managed to make it work. You need a minimum of 3 to make this possible because you need 1 person on the left wing, 1 person on the right wing, and 1 person in the front guiding the aircraft in. So you need a minimum, we call it minimum staffing, okay? You guys are familiar with that when you go into work and stuff, minimum staffing, minimum number of employees that they need to have working so they can run a business, okay? So our minimum staffing is 3 members, okay? So we are on the, brink of getting ready to take a break, and right after our departure from that first flight, we had to go and do our next one, which was Turkish and Turkish inbound. So Turkish inbound was, flight 008, and so what do you guys think the outbound flight was? You guessed it, 007. You guys see the connection here? Making sense, right? Okay. So as we go, we went and arrived the aircraft, we chalked it and all that stuff, and by the way, when we finished offloading the very first one, we literally went from there over to get all the dollies ready for the next flight. Now, typically, our lead, when they set up for the first flight, they went ahead and found all the dollies for the second flight. Or if you're really lucky, what you'll do is you'll take the dollies from when you're finished, your first flight, you'll take them to your next flight for basically your resources, right? So you'll use your resources over and over and over and over again. Okay. That's how it is in the airline industry. They just reuse them over and over and over again. So we arrived the second flight, right? And then right in between then is typically when I took my lunch, and it was about, I don't know, an hour lunch, luckily for me, unless we were given a flight to do Avianca, and it was the terminating flight, so it only came in and then overnighted, and then they did it really, really, really early in the morning, like 5 or 6 in the morning, it departed. So, we arrived that one, and after we did that, we would go right back to that, Turkish and do that, departure. And so we started working a departure flight. We loaded the, commodities and knickknacks, and then started loading like cans when they came to the gate. We loaded the cargo, got the cargo out the way. Okay. So that was my first team. I learned a couple of skills. And then my second team, I wanted to learn more. So I said, all right, I think I'd like to learn more. Put me on a new team. And the same process went through. We basically had another batch of assignment flights for the exact week. And this was from week to week to week to week to week, right? It wasn't just these flights this day and then these flights this day and then these flights this day. Let me explain to you guys something. In domestic flights, like, for example, I work for a big major airline. Okay, so you guys know I work for United, if you already haven't figured that out. Okay. We have multiple destinations, multiple departures, multiple arrivals. Okay. But we have 1,000 and some employees at my station. Okay. So they're all working these flights, they're all working these tasks, these assignments. So you're thinking, "Well, how do you bring all these destinations in?" Because they always change. They come in, they leave, they come in, they leave, they come in, they leave, yada, 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 right? You guys are with me on the same page? Okay. So, what's crazy, though, is that they don't all come in at the same hour. They don't all come in at the same time, right? So, if you are boarding on Fort Lauderdale and you come into DC, you may come in at 3:30, okay? Tomorrow, your flight may not leave until 4:15, and you may not get here until 5:45. Same flight, same place, different arrival times. Now, if your arrival time comes in then, what do you think is gonna happen to the departure? That's gonna affect the departure, right? Which then affects the arrival at your departure station. right, for the next arrival for them, okay? It's like a trickle down effect. It's a snowball method. One thing leads to another, to another, to another. Now, have you ever witnessed an avalanche occur? Now, have you ever seen an avalanche start forming and just stop? Very rarely happens, right? Matter of fact, I don't think it's ever just stopped. It just kept rolling and rolling and rolling and rolling and rolling until it got to the very bottom of the hill and went finished, right? Usually it's not that great of a result, but you get the idea, right? Okay. So, um, I bring that to your attention because the first batch of assignments on my first team never really changed. It was the same for my team. And then another team did a different batch of assignments for those carriers. And then for the other four carriers. And then for the other four, you guys see what's going on? So team number one will do 4 flights. Team number two will do like 4 flights. Team number three will do 3 flights. Team number five will do 5 flights. Okay. But then if you notice when I said, a couple minutes ago, there were days where I would do an inbound quick turn, I would do an inbound, and then I would do an outbound. Now, some days in between those 2 inbound and outbound flights, right? Because remember, this was the quick turn. So this was in and out, quick. This was the inbound. This was the outbound. Now, imagine us doing an inbound right in the middle of these 2 flights. Okay. There were days where I'd had to work that, but not every day. Okay. So keep that in mind. My second team, we would have to go right into doing a departure. Very first thing, like I'd have to clock in, we'd go right to the gate and just start loading right up, right? And it was grueling. And then the second one, I did another departure. And then right after that one, we started doing an arrival. And then we took a long break and then we did another arrival and then we called it quits. Okay. And then I realized I had potential. So I went and moved to a different team. Are you guys seeing this? So I learned each skill depending on which team I went to. My third team I went to, so we brought in Virgin Atlantic and we had another team that was given the task to do their departure. This is very common in the airline industry. Okay. You will very much have one team do an arrival and they won't do the departure. You'll have it one team do the departure but won't do the arrival. Okay. But they know enough to be able to work on that specific flight, right? So if you say, I need to know if this has been loaded, I need to know if that's been offloaded. If you ask me what's been offloaded, okay, I may not give you that answer. It's not because I don't trust you. It's not because I'm trying to be deceitful. It's not because I'm lying to you. It's because I just honestly do not know. Okay. I wasn't the person assigned to that arrival. I wasn't the person assigned to that team. We don't know. And we don't have time to go run around and ask, did you do this? Did you do this? Did you do this? Because in the airline industry, okay, things are happening every second, let me put this on pause for just a second. Not the actual podcast, but this thought, guys. Okay. Picture this. Go to LAX, go to Atlanta, go to Frankfurt, go to um Istanbul, go to Sydney, go to all these major airports. Watch from the window. And I mean watch from the window. Go watch the runway. You know what? Matter of fact, go to LAX. There's an In-N-Out burger across the street from the airport. I highly encourage you. It's one of the best burger places ever. Oh my goodness. And we'll do another podcast about places that I think you should try when you go to these airport places. Okay. Anyways, so back to my story. You guys ever see a plane will come in, land, and then taxi, and then if you look right behind it, you'll see headlights come in. Count the minutes or seconds it takes for one plane to touch that ground to the time the next one is on the ground. There's no more than 30 or 20 seconds in between these flights. Okay. So that's the challenge. The challenge is we sometimes don't even have but 2 minutes to get our stuff together to really give you a professional job that you deserve as a passenger, as a customer, as part of our family, because you choose to fly with us. So, and Having had stated, this to you, uh, we we went ahead and did Virgin inbound, okay, Virgin Atlantic, not Virgin America. So there's Virgin America and Virgin Atlantic, 2 separate accounts from the, contractors I was working for. We didn't touch Virgin America, we only did Virgin Atlantic, okay? Um, and I'm trying to remember where they went to. Was it London Heathrow? I'll have to go back and look at my notes, guys. I have to apologize. So, um, I seem to recall it was London Heathrow for Virgin Atlantic. Um, yeah, it seems like it's a place that yes, you know what? Because if you look at the nose art, I think it's very indicative of London Heathrow. There's some connection between them. Yeah, it is London Heathrow. Okay. So we did London Heathrow inbound, and the other team did London Heathrow outbound later on that day. Okay. So we arrived that plane. We ended up running over to Air France, which was a couple gates down. Okay. It was like 6 or 7 gates down from our arrival that we ended up working. Okay. Dallas is a very weird airport in terms of the way the gates are laid out, guys. I'll have to explain the way that the gates are laid out in another podcast. So stay tuned for that one. Okay. Um, and let me put this all on hold. I am here talking to you on social media and the world and the internet, whatever you want to call it. I have a job, I have a responsibility, and I have a contract that I must fulfill to you guys. And I am trusted with that. I cannot explain, I cannot dispel, I cannot share. I won't share anything that we were told not to say. Okay. I do work in a very classified and sometimes restrictive area. Therefore, you're not going to get any information from there. Okay. But the information I am sharing is information that you can find on YouTube, information you can find on Google. It's not that secret, it's not that hidden. Okay. So let's move forward from here. So we went ahead and did the next arrival flight, which was Air France. Now, Air France, we did Air France 55. Now, who was paying attention? We did a quick turn. What flight number do you think was the departing flight number? Give you guys a couple minutes to think about your answer. You guys are absolutely right. That's correct. So if you said 54, you nailed it. You were paying attention. All right. So we did Air France 55, turning Air France 54, and this was going to Charles de Gaulle, CDG. All right. And we're going to do another video about common acronyms for airports and how to figure it out. I don't really know the real gist on how they created them, but I'll show and explain how you can kind of figure it out. Okay. So we did Charles de Gaulle in, Charles de Gaulle out. Okay. And there was a 777 for the winter ops, and we had the Airbus 380 when it was in service for the summer ops. Boy, was that a treat. Let me tell you something. If you ever want to see just how small of a person you really are inside of this massive world, go stand next to an Airbus 380 and just see your size compared to this massive beauty. To be honest, I would stand next to a 777, go stand next to the engine cowl, and see how big you are. To put this in perspective, I'm 5'3". You can put my feet, if you copied me, on top of my head, and I still couldn't touch the interior of the cowl on a 777-200. It is massive. Just goes to show you how miraculous this piece of machinery and equipment can move such heavy weight. It's crazy. Anyway, so we did the in and out for Air France, and then we took a small break, and we came out as a team, and we pushed out Abu Dhabi with Etihad, and Etihad was my very first 787. So I learned a lot from that team, and then I basically was given an assignment, and this was just kind of random, sporadic. My lead at the time was like, "You seem like a pretty general overall guy that could be competent. You seem like you know what you're doing. You seem like you understand it. You seem like you're paying attention to details. You seem like you want to learn. You seem very enthusiastic. Let's give you a shot." All right. So my load master actually will give us the printout, guys, paperwork printout of what we need to load, how to load it, and where to load, and the weights and everything. So we know what's going in there, by the way. Um, and with that being said, he basically gave me the list and said, "Follow all this. This is how you read it." And he showed me how to read it, and then said, "All yours. I'm stepping away." Basically, did this. Took the sheet of paper. It's like, "All yours." Literally, just like that. Not even joking. So I went ahead and loaded that flight, and the next thing you know, I basically did that same thing day in and day out, and, uh, I never unfortunately really got to be a team lead for all those, so I got the knowledge, the skill, and the know-how to do it, and I kept that with me. Now, about that same time, I was given the opportunity to join another airline. I went from doing wide bodies for this massive community of contractors and contractor who did contracted work for all these airlines, right? And by the way, you build such close relationships. It's like you go in and meet your professor, you meet your teacher, and you stayed there for the whole half the year, and you're pretty much like mom and dad or, grandfather and father. However close of a dynamic relationship you have with somebody, okay? It's the same thing. We just know each other by first name. We call each other on a first name basis. We ask each other how we are, like, outside of work. All that good stuff, like, "I'm thinking of you, it's nice to see you. I'm glad you're here. We're gonna make this work. Whatever you need, we got you," that sort of thing. 'Cause we're close when we do that sort of stuff. Because it's in the airline industry and especially that line of work, if I can't rely on you, you ain't gonna rely on me, right? It's that same dynamic. You've gotta trust me, and I gotta trust you to make this work. You got my back, I got your back. So so moving on, um, I went ahead and got the opportunity to go from working wide bodies for a contractor to working narrow bodies, strictly narrow bodies. And what was that? You're right. You guessed it. That was Piedmont Airlines. But here's the catch. We actually worked tandem together because I worked for a contractor who did mainline work and regional work. Now, that was weird to begin with because I brought not only mainline flights in and did it by the mainline side, but we had to do it by the regional side. They both had different SOPs and different procedures we had to follow. I'm not going to get into the gist and the specifics of that, but you know that's for a different discussion, different topic. And I don't really think I want to explain and express those. That's not really anything you need to know. It's not anything that we need to share for the general public. Okay. Um, and so I was given the opportunity to do that, and I politely told, um, this was while I was still working for my old company. I said, "All right, well, welcome aboard because we liked your resume. So come on out. We're gonna basically put you on a plane. We're gonna fly you out to your interview. You're gonna go test, and then what the hope that we hope that happens is that you come back home and you have all your training done and complete, and you're ready to go, and then you're on the job or OJT. That's what OJT stands for, on the job training. It's gonna start back in your home base, and then once we turn you loose, you're on your own." So they basically flew me out. The day they flew me out, the day was like, "Well, I appreciate that Swissport, but I'm out. I'm gone. I appreciate all you've given me. Hope to work with you and see you in the future." There was It was some words that were exchanged, and, I wished him the best, and it was good. I didn't scream, I didn't yell, I didn't do none of that, I just kept it professional, um, and, if you guys want, I can maybe explain that in a different story later, but if you don't really care, then let's go ahead and move forward. So, anyway, I went ahead and started working for Piedmont. Piedmont does American Airlines and American Eagle. Now, American Eagle is the regional carrier for American Airlines, okay? And by the way, Piedmont Airlines is an actual airline, which the contractor I was named after called. Okay, so it's synonymous, but we didn't do Piedmont Airline work. We did American Airlines and American Eagle work. So time went on, and I learned a couple of things. They actually made me a crew chief. Now, crew chief is basically a team leader of a group of people. So I went working the same people every day, the same flights every day to check this out, having different people every day, and I had 4 gates to work. And instead of working this flight, and then this flight, and then calling it a day, I had to work this one, this one, this one, and this one. Now, this one would park, this one would park. I'd start off this park. I started offloading this, flight, and then I'd start offloading this one at the same time, right? Because we can multitask. But get ready, because it's about to get ugly real fast. Guess what's coming in? That's right, this one. So you got one here, and now one here. So now you have 3 that gate at the same exact time, and we only have but, like, maybe 9 or 10 people. Now remember, you need 3 minimum people. So do you see how this creates a conflict? Because I have 3 people to arrive one, and 3 people to arrive this one. Now, one person has to get in there and offload the bags. So I've got one person offloading flight number one person offloading flight number 2, right? It's usually a team that'll help out, but we have to move from gate to gate to gate, okay? So I've already lost 2 people, but I need to remember I need a minimum of 3. Minimum staffing 3, okay? This one is on the ground. This needs to get parked. Do you see the confliction here? So we made it work. We pulled them out of the pit. We went ahead and parked it. We chalked it. And then we offloaded the rest of the flights. And then we hopped over as soon as we finished the first one. We hopped over and did the third and the second one. And then we started, check this out, we started loading the departure for the first one after we finished offloading the first one and assisted with the third one. So you see, this is how kind of a big mess. So now I went from knowing what flight I'm doing, knowing what team I'm with, to jumping all around. So learned a bunch of skills, learned a bunch of traits, learned a bunch of tricks on how to get stuff effectively done, but correctly done, right? And now they also taught me how to work the overnighters. So I worked the overnighters that would just stay at the airport for, the remainder of the night, the remainder of the day. Okay. We call them RONs, remain overnight, RON. Okay. So we went ahead and we did that. And then I jumped over to an invitation to join Swissport again. C'est la vie. It ain't so. But it's not for Swissport America. It's for Swissport Express. A foreshadow. Where do you think I got my job? I'm currently at now. That's right. Swissport Express. Because Swissport Express is the express carrier, regional carrier, the charter carrier. You guys see the connection here, right? The small regional jets, right? Not the airliners, the jets, the CRJs, the Embraers, all them. We worked those, which then led me to an invitation to mainline. So I went from learning all of the wide bodies in 2016 with Swissport America, got an invitation in 2017 in November for Piedmont. okay? So about a month or so, for about a year and month, okay? And then I got an invitation to work for Swissport Express for a year after that, okay? And I know it seems like I'm a little jumpy, and it seems like I'm just moving all around, and you should probably stick to one thing at a time. But I knew what I was capable of, I knew what I was worth, and neither of those two accounts were fulfilling my worth, my capabilities, and my mental capacity. They just weren't fulfilling me. I could do the work, but it wasn't fulfilling. I wanted more. So I went ahead and I jumped onto the board with Swissport Express, and I then started out as a regular person, did a couple of flights, and actually one of my employees now that works for me with me was a supervisor at the time and a team lead. He taught me everything. He taught me how to close out a flight. He taught me all the time metrics that I need to meet, when I need to offload, when I need to do all this, do all that, do all this, do all that, so that I know that when I'm done, I have 5 or 7 minutes left before we have to push you out from the gate. Brake release. This is usually the hand signal for brake release. Okay. Um, so before brake release. So then he was like, "I need to test you. Come here. Put me." He went to the scheduler and said, "I need you to pair me, okay, Sean, with me for the next few days. I need to see what this kid is made of." So he put me through it, and we normally, as a employee of Swissport Express, we were assigned 3 gates at a time, or 4, depending on how you look at it. 3 gates at a time. And we had to do the arrivals and the departures with one pushback tractor, a box to do the arrivals, and usually like a tractor or something. Sometimes we end up having to walk from gate to gate to gate to gate because it's in close proximity, and it's usually always next to each other. So I do this one and like gate number one, gate number two, and gate number three. We'd always have those gates, right? Not numerically, but you guys get the idea. So that went into me being a team lead. I got my orange vest, and if you guys look at the image, that's the actual vest I wore while I was a team lead, okay? I wore that one for a long, long time, and in one part, the other Toga brother, Richard, okay, which you guys have been formally introduced to, actually moved to, United Airlines, okay? 2018, I was, with them. I didn't really know a whole lot, and I learned a bunch from the from the United side. American and United have very, very different operating procedures. So I ended up having to learn United's operating procedures while working with Adam, okay? So Adam ended up teaching me all the stuff, and it carried me with a new trainee or a new hire, as we call him. Okay. And the new hire happened to be Richard. Richard was absolutely mortified of me. I did not, intend on giving this, hard, very deafening kind of persona, but he just took one look at me and was like, "Oh my goodness, I better not screw up with this guy because this guy is going to be pretty, pretty, pretty heavily pissed." So it got to where we just kinda clicked. We did one flight, and I think it was a flight that actually had one of my favorite memories, and I'll share that memory with you in another podcast, guys. But anyways, we ended up working one flight, and it was like we just instantly knew what we needed to do. I had him bring in the plane. I had our guys offload. He did, everything else I needed him to do, and we basically got it out 10 minutes early, and I knew that we were destined to be paired up forever. So I asked to have him on my team, and, because they saw us both as very strong work team members. They didn't. They needed to pair me with people that were within the realm of me kind of assisting them, but not really being a superior team. And they put him with another team. And it went back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. But when they paired them with me, we were unstoppable. We were always on time, didn't have any issues or any problems, and if we did, we always solved them professionally. We were always a team to be reckoned with. So, we went ahead and, went through there, and he wanted something more, wanted something bigger, and didn't ever get the chance to be a crew chief or, team member. I'll have to ask him that question, because I vaguely seem to remember he did, but it was for a very short period of time, and, we'll have to fill you in on that one on a podcast when he joins in with me. So, um, yeah, anyway, guys, so he ended up getting an invitation to United Mainline, and he was there for about a good 4 or 5 months, and then he finally convinced me to come with him to United Mainline. I filled out my application, and I got accepted, and unfortunately, for him, there was some turn of events, some life events that needed to be done, and so he parted ways with United Airlines, and he got into the railroad industry, the railroad business, and he basically followed what he was called to do, and, I'll have him on the podcast in a little bit, guys, when I go see him sometime soon. We would definitely have him on the podcast, okay? So stay tuned for that, guys. And then, he'll break down some of the stories, and we'll have a good time, okay? So anyways, I ended up going to United Mainline. This was about 2020. I got, the call in November that year, actually the year prior, so 2019, and then I was given the examination, the introduction, and all of the orientation that all occurred in January, I believe. And, it was a very weird and formal interview, gotta be honest. It's a very different from what I've ever experienced. Um, and it was done in a hotel nonetheless, so that was pretty cool. And I'll do another podcast on all that. Guys, we have a whole lot of podcast ideas to do that, but again, this is just an introduction on how we got to where we are today. All right. So this is sort of setting the scene for you. Okay. And I went ahead and started working there. And in 2020, March 2nd, that was when I officially became a member of United. And folks, I've been there since 2020 of March. So coming up March 3rd of 2024, I will have been there for now 4 years. So it's been a steady progress. Um, yeah, here we are. Pretty cool story, pretty cool introduction, right? So I would like to go ahead and take the time, guys, to let you guys know that I have some pretty cool things planned. As you guys know, you've seen a couple of my pushback videos, you've seen a couple of my aircraft videos, you've seen a couple of my what is that videos. You guys have also seen a couple of weird random moment videos, which happens all the time. And I think it's a pretty interesting and fun thing to share with you because yes, it's a very serious and very professional place to work, but there are some occasions where I have to think, "Is this really happening?" kind of thing. Um, so yeah, I would also like to share with you guys some stories, some nice things that I've come across, and some tricks and some suggestions, and also what not a better way to explain the industry of aviation than through a podcast that you could take with you to go wherever you are. And you can also fall asleep too if you guys would like to. Imagine that. Imagine you flying somewhere, hearing my voice on a podcast you download on YouTube or what have you, maybe on iTunes, I don't know. And you're actually learning about aviation while you're flying a plane to wherever you've gotta be. Pretty cool, right? And then who knows? Maybe one day you actually get the joy of finding it to be entertaining, so much so that you come out and work for one of the airlines too. It's a very rewarding career, I'm telling you right now. Very underrated career, but a very rewarding career nonetheless. I have, I tell you, I was 24 years old when, was it 24 or 25? 25 years old when I first started working for the airlines. I cannot tell you guys enough. It has been insane, the transformation that I have made while working for the airlines in my daily life, in my friendships, in my relationships, and daily tasks, in my dreams, and my goals. It is insane. It's crazy how it shapes and it forms you. With all that being said, guys, I appreciate you checking in. It's about 5 o'clock my time, Eastern Standard Time. I wanted to do this podcast for you to open up the possibility of joining and sharing the love and joy of aviation while you're listening to my voice. I appreciate you guys. I also would like to take the time to wish a shout out to each and every single one of you guys that listen to us, listen to me, watch me, enjoy all of my stories, my videos, and laughter, and learning stuff of that. We wouldn't be who we are if it weren't for you guys. I cannot thank you guys enough. It's all because of you guys out there, here, wherever you are. Thank you guys so much. I could not have done it without you. We are at 350 subscribers. And we did this just about, I don't know, a year and a half ago. Look at where we are. I remember the very first time I opened it, and I only had 7 subscribers, and I was thinking to myself, it's going to take forever to get somewhere. It's going to take 5 years. We haven't even hit the 3 or 4 year mark, guys, and we're already 350 strong. I remember when I first told you guys we got 50 subscribers so we can do stuff like this, some live streaming. And we way surpassed that. Anyway, I do have some surprise to share with you guys. So I recently reached out to somebody on social media. Do you guys remember us going to that Boeing facility, flying the aircraft there? Well, wait till you see what I got in store for you guys. Think you guys are gonna like it. All right. As always, I appreciate it. I am Sean, the Toga brother. Richard will be here. Stay tuned. I promise you, he'll be with me shortly. As always, I'm Sean, the Toga brother. You guys know it. It's coming. I'm out.